Hello, so I've gotten the cords disentangled. It took me well nigh 20 minutes to disentangle the cord, all the cords. Now I only have one speaker, but I only wanted one speaker in the first place. Okay, so if you can't hear me enough, then maybe you're not meant to hear me. If you don't want to put on subtitles, I speak very slowly and deliberately, usually with an inexplicably New York accent. Nobody can understand. Nobody knows. Nobody knows the troubles I see. No. Yeah. But Jesus. Okay. So, thinking about the confessions. Okay, tell us quite honestly, have you ever been racist? I just don't remember a single time when I was racist. Forgive me if I have forgotten. I just don't know. Okay, have you ever said anything bad to people of other religions? I feel terrible about this, but this is the thing that comes to my mind right now. When I was part of the Worldwide Church of God, it's not like the Universalist Unitarian Church. It was simply, I thought that I had to adhere to the religious holidays which are typically adhered to by Jews. So I had to cleanse my house at a certain time, which, of course, are you kidding me? Well, whatever. And, no. But I did fast on the Day of Atonement, and I was waiting for my ride, because this was a very important holiday for us to attend church, I would say church, on the Day of Atonement. Like, you've been fasting, you're really repentant, and there's this charming young lady who comes up to me with kind of curly blondish hair with glasses, and she says, well, are you Jewish too? I said, oh no, we just take the New Testament view on the Old Testament. And she's like backing away from me. Like, our steps are ordered of the Lord, that's what the Bible says. So. But it was only maybe a month or two later, I can't even explain this, folks. It is beyond my understanding. She was in front of me at the Ohio State University in the cafeteria line. And my roommate starts talking trash about this girl, which I had actually had a friendly conversation with at one point. And she starts putting her down. I'm like, oh yeah, I agree. Because to me at that time it was more important for me to be loved by my roommates, by the people who surrounded me. And to this day, it is very difficult for me to understand what my roommate had against this girl. Other than my roommate might have been a closet Nazi or something. I don't know, because I said, well, Svensgaard, is that Swedish? She said, oh no, it's Norwegian. So, because she's a blonde. Yeah. I don't, you just don't even know what kind of dark forces you might get involved with in the college scene. I hate to say this. There was another time that it happened. And I don't know what creed or conviction this person was of. I thought she was a very nice person, kind of like a bubbly, darkish blonde person. And for some reason, my roommate, I think it was, again, my roommate said, well, that person's kind of an airhead, or they're an idiot. And then she turned around, and because I agreed, verbally, and she turned around and shot a look at me like, I can't believe that you denied me. I didn't know why I'm denying you, and why did they dislike you in the first place? I had no clue, right? Okay. So if we could go back to the Christian church, okay. my parents originally got me involved in the Catholic Church, and I did go to confession a few times after my first communion. I definitely know I didn't go through confirmation. After first communion, you can go into the priest and make your confessions, and I always thought the priest was the nicest guy in the world. I mean, I never saw any flaw in him at all. But there was one time when I knew confession was coming up. I probably only went there like 2 or 3 times, unfortunately, before my parents separated. And I said to Mom, I don't have to confess to Father Wellnitz that I made the red X's with the red felt tip marker on the ironing board cover. I made a bunch of red X's. I didn't even know why. She says, oh, no, you don't have to tell him that. I don't know what the significance of that is, because it's like I don't just go around making red X's everywhere, do I? I mean, have I ever done that in my life before or since? Just asking. So, I'm sorry if I have offended people. I am truly sorry. I hope that my roommate is not the devil. I mean, I have a lot of plants here with me right now. I never wanted to engage in anti-Semitism in any way, shape, or form. I was very uncomfortable with racism because my grandmother, who came from Europe, used to use the N-word to refer to African Americans. I was very, very uncomfortable with that. I never agreed with it. Even my father, who was not like the greatest fan of African Americans, I never heard that word used in my house. Ever, ever, ever. It really pained me. My grandmother, one time, I love her to the depth of my being, but she interrogated me one time when I was just a little tiny girl, like 7 years old, and she said, you don't have any N's in your school, do you? And I said, well, maybe there is one. I hate to say that I said that. I should, but I don't even know if I had been to church at that point. I said, well, yes, I can think of one, because this girl was from... I feel terrible because she was not a bad person. I said, oh, I can think of one person, because her skin was darker and her hair was black. And, but being interrogated by the grandmother that you really loved. I mean, she, as far as I know, she never smoked nor drank, but she had her drug. And we can just imagine what that was. So, later on in my school career, I was certainly bullied by people. It would happen. When's the first time it happened? I can't remember a specific incident. I mean, I had some bad experiences, believe me, before my parents divorced, but it didn't happen until my parents were divorced, and they would just come up behind me. It was like the same kind of experience. It's like somebody's just coming up behind you for no reason whatsoever. You're leaving them totally alone. You've always been a kind, good person. And they start insulting you. And so, I mean, in a way you can start forming a prejudice against people of a certain race or religion. Well, one time, when I was working in a restaurant, I bought these cheap shoes, and I'd never watched the show, and I won't mention the show, but Two Broke Girls, actually I just did, and I had, I was not the savvy waitress, I was the fumbling waitress, and I had bought these cheap shoes, and there's grease and water all over the floor all the time on the tile floor. And I slipped and I fell. I dropped my tray, And these young black teenage girls just laughed and laughed at me. Like it was the most entertaining thing they had ever seen. And that really, it hurt me so deeply. When my mom wanted me to get the job in the first place, and the grandmother was like saying, well, you shouldn't be laughing at that girl. You shouldn't be laughing. I'm like, well, I don't think I ever laughed at people's misfortune or adversity, but everybody's different. Perhaps I failed to have enough compassion for people. That's what I'm thinking. Perhaps you have failed to have enough compassion for me. I went out to the store, second time tonight. I'm talking to somebody on the phone, and they're like, really enjoying the conversation because I'm being funny, but I don't hold anything back. I'm not cussing and using foul language, which I have. I have cussed and used foul language in the past. Of course I'm sorry for that. I know that's not what God desires, but you think about these little boys, they just... So I've had 7 boys, and they just... Sometimes they want to say poopy and all kinds of stuff, but why would you want to say poopy? Why would you even bring that up? Well, they like to say sussy. Well, whatever. You're a sussy too. Sorry. What does that even mean? Okay, you have to explain it to me again. Oh, you're a suspect. Well, I don't think so. Anyway, my kids have a good heart, but I'm not saying that they have always acted correctly. A few times, my kids might have been banned from Roblox for... I know there was one kid in particular, he would actually kind of deliberately troll people. I know that's not a word that's in vogue these days, but I still remember that word. Just troll people. He'd just be like a total burst. That's not right. You shouldn't be doing that. You shouldn't be doing that. I would always say that. If they confessed it to me, I would say, you don't know who you're talking to. Maybe you should just... Don't bully people. Don't be that way. It's not like my kids are like very mean people, but they're susceptible, just like you and I are. So, of course I regret the few times that I was mean to somebody, that I was actually walking behind somebody, and I said something bad about them. It's because somebody else told me to say something bad about them. You see, that's interesting, because I had a roommate. So I'm wondering if that happened to me when I was in 6th grade. It was the worst point of my life. I was only 11 years old. I turned 11 in October, and my parents were recently divorced, and I was living in a trailer park, and I was just trying to walk to the library. You can imagine how bad, how Satan will pick on you on your very worst day in your lifetime. Your lifetime up till then, not your entire lifetime. Like, I know he had a buddy next to him. It's like, to this day, I couldn't tell you what these nondescript white males looked like. They just seemed to be taller, and they seemed to have brown hair. And why would you pick on somebody and call them the worst? I never called anybody the worst insults in the world, but then again, I'm not a man, I'm not a German. I just...
You've said some things you shouldn't have said, haven't you?
Is there... Please...
It's a distinction without a difference. You've really hurt all feelings here.
It was only out of the... my soul. it was just confessing that it was my soul. One